Hi, I'm Laura Hahn Segundo Collins,
And I'm Joy Han Silva Melora.
and welcome to Hahnacity. Ugh. Hi, Dios. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I think we need to keep that beginning.
We're a little flummoxed, I think.
A little frazzled.
Frazzle dazzle.
Yeah, doing this in the middle of a work week and lots on the list to do. So,
Mhm.
but very excited to be here with you. So,
Same. All right. I'm going to ask you something that tends to
Yeah.
get asked at like icebreakers.
You're going to ask me this?
Yeah, I'm going to ask you because I'm going to ask myself this too because I'm
Okay.
trying to like get my act together. So,
Okay.
and maybe we'll ask all the listeners. Hi, Hahnacity listeners. I hope you all are doing okay. Better than Joy and me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What do you need to do in order to be fully present with this time right now? What
Oh,
is something you need to do in order to be fully present right now?
that's a good thing. Okay, well, first off, I'm going to put my phone
Yeah.
down so I can't look at it.
Although I need it to kind of do the
Maybe put a
timing.
timer on.
Yeah.
The other thing is deep breathing might be kind of nice.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
Everyone take a deep breath.
Oh, I just literally blew into the mic, which might not have been pleasant.
That's ASMR. People friggin' eat on microphones, so I think
That's
we're
true.
okay. Let's do it again. How about 3 deep breaths at your
Oh, that's a
pace?
good one. I like that.
Okay.
Breathing in and exhale. That's nice.
Oh,
I already feel more grounded and centered, so that's good.
awesome.
What about you? What do you need?
I'm going to do the same as you, which is I'm going to put the timer on once we get rolling, and that'll keep us
Okay.
on track. But then after that, I'm going to set it and forget it. How about the rest of you? Maybe put in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
We can all create a collective list of things we can do that help us focus
Yeah.
and be present.
Yeah.
And on that note, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. There's a little bit of a
Believable.
pause,
Yeah,
but
totally believable. Fake it till you
both me
make
and
it.
yeah. Oh, there's Bean.
There's
Hi,
me.
Bean. Hi, Bee. That's so funny. I don't think she's ever had a guest appearance on Hahnacity. We talk about her, but she's never been.
Except for Sabrina. For some
Was she
reason,
on there with Sabrina? I don't remember.
I'm not sure.
Maybe. I haven't chatted with Sabrina. I should go and connect with her.
Yeah.
Hi, Sabrina.
Hi, Sabrina.
Okay. It's been a little bit hectic. I'm not gonna lie. Both me and my husband are not feeling well. We're sort of battling this like cold and we've been traveling, obviously working with kids. That's a whole thing. So we're just amongst more bodies. And I think both of us have been battling a little bit of a congestion in the nasal and chest cavity area. And last night he literally could not sleep in our room because in our apartment we don't have the best insulation and he couldn't breathe. So he had to like sleep on the couch out in the living room and we just haven't been sleeping well. So I think the lack of sleep, not feeling well, we're in the crunch with work. We're getting ready for our competitive season that starts. I mean, when I say it doesn't start till December, it feels far away, but in the gymnastics world, it's really just
It's around the
not that
corner.
much time.
Yeah, it's around the
And
corner.
our girls are working hard, but they've gone through a lot of changes this season. So my heart goes out to them. There's been a little bit of a shift with our staffing. We have lost 3 coaches in just 1 year. A lot of changes. And they are resilient and adaptable and really doing incredibly well with all those shifts. But I just feel like we're 2 steps behind because of all the stuff that's been outside of our control. But hopefully we'll have a successful season. I'm pretty positive we will. They're rock stars.
Yeah.
So as a staff, we're trying our best to love them and nurture them and care for them in the best that we can, but also get them prepared for season and doing all the things that coaches do with balancing, being a coach that's encouraging, but also have to push them and motivate them when it's hard for them to, work out. And there's some days that they're on top of it and other days they, are not. So it's the fine balance of coaching.
Yeah. And as they say, I guess when the tower falls, then the nice thing is that you get to rebuild. And that's
Yeah.
the beautiful thing is you're getting to rebuild a program that is going to be about love and care because you get to choose who's going to be a part of that team. And that's
Right.
so there's a lot of hope
Right.
too.
Yes, we're definitely in a rebuilding season, and there's a lot of conversations on how we want to rebuild, and that sounds very exciting. And I have full confidence in the people that I work with. They're awesome human beings who really do care about the program and the health of these kids, and it's just lovely to be a part of that community. And it starts at the top. So our owner is amazing, who loves children and puts them first, who's a parent herself, and she just sees things differently, which has been refreshing being in on this side of it. So,
Yeah, it's cool.
but that's me. How are you doing?
A little frazzle dazzle today, I think, as well. Just got a lot of projects going on, which is amazing, absolutely amazing. It's just life between kids and my practice and working with athletes and families and coaches and stuff, and then
Hmm.
trying to give everything 1,000% when I have it in front of me. It gets stretched a little bit, but it's all good stuff. I've been so blessed. I could not imagine joy. I mean, this
I
is
know.
Hahnacity season 4, right? Can you imagine when we first started crying and shaking, sharing our story a couple years ago, that we would be sitting here in the throes of the sports world as we're doing, but in a way that has been so healing, so
Yeah,
incredible, getting to meet all
I
kinds of
know.
amazing people and the honor of hearing everyone's stories. I would never imagine. So I count
Yeah,
myself only blessed and really, really
same.
lucky. Yeah.
Yeah, we started this idea thanks to Nathan
Shout
to
out
be here
Nathan.
at this point. I
Mhm.
know.
Really opened
And
doors.
our lives have really flipped a script here. It's incredible.
Yeah.
So we have this amazing guest, Isaiah,
Hmm.
and he's incredible.
Shall
But
I read
with
his
that,
bio?
yeah,
All right.
let's do it.
Okay. Give me just a moment. Okay. We are privileged to welcome our guest, who's making a noteworthy contribution to youth engagement across Canada. Isaiah Neal is a Canadian keynote speaker and former member of the Golden Bears football team at the University of Alberta, who has transitioned from a student athlete to a dedicated advocate for mental health awareness. Though strong and resilient on the gridiron, Isaiah faced significant personal challenges that informed his understanding of mental health issues. He now creates keynote experiences for youth nationwide that provide mental health education and empowerment for resilience. He has shared his story on Canada's leading media channels, including CTV and CBC News, and he's partnered with the largest Canadian youth mental health organizations, such as Jack.org and Bell Let's Talk. Today, Isaiah is here to share his story with us. We're so lucky, Hahnacity listeners. Without further ado, Isaiah Neal.
Yay!
Yay. Hi, Isaiah. Welcome to Hahnacity. We're so happy that you're here. You made it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, Isaiah, it's nice to finally meet you. I know that you and Laura have met, but it's great to put a face to the name. And I'm really excited to hear your story because Laura cannot stop talking about you and how incredible your story is. So I'm excited to listen to it, one, but also for our listeners to also hear your story. So we would love to start the interview with, where did your story begin?
Yeah, for sure. When I was about 9 years old, I started playing sports. My first sport was baseball, and then my second sport was football. And wasn't really a big sports guy, but for whatever reason, I loved it enough to stay with it. However, I was never the most confident when I played sport, and so even from the age of 12, I remember, being on buses to go to games and looking out the bus window and feeling this really weird sense of anxiety. But at the time, I didn't really know the word anxiety. And so I just thought it was, game day nerves. I thought it was kind of just normal to feel this way in sport and never really thought about it at that point in my life because it never was debilitating or really getting in the way. However, in high school, that's when it started to bother me and really get in the way. In grade 10, I had an ACL injury, and that took me out for my entire grade 10 season. Somehow managed to still find a spot on a provincial team, and I competed in the off season. And then grade 11, thought that would be my year, and I broke my leg and
Oh my
lost the grade 11 season. Then had another way of finding myself again on another provincial team on the off season. So was still getting film and experience, but wasn't actually getting regular season experience. And so grade 12 hits, and I was an absolute nervous wreck,
God.
mainly because I had all this pressure on myself to perform. This was my last year in grade 12, and I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to make something of myself. And I remember it was a preseason game in grade 12, and I'm on this bus, and I'm feeling really, really anxious. And it's to the point where my body's starting to feel numb. I'm having heart palpitations like I've never had before. And somehow, again, I managed to tell myself it's just game day nerves. This is completely normal. However, I had this, this feeling that I just wanted to be outside of my body because whatever it was, what I was that I was feeling, it was like debilitating. I couldn't focus. I wasn't even
Mm.
excited to play. And I went game after game after game like this. And, I told my coaches that like, hey, like, I don't know what's going on right now with me, but like, I'm not 100%. And, if I act out in a certain way, know that it's not because it's me, it's something else, and I don't know what it is. And I
Mm.
never figured it out what it was until university. So I got an offer to play at the University of Alberta here in Edmonton, Alberta, in Canada. And again, I had some injuries. I got a concussion, and I got given what I like to call a deadly dose of isolation. So I
Mm-hmm.
was no longer allowed to be in class. I was no longer allowed to go to practice. And all I had was me, myself, and I deep, deep, deep into my thoughts. And not having school and not having football created a lot of anxiety because those were the two most important things in my life at the time. That's all that I cared about. Slowly, week after week, I became depressed and didn't really think much about it. I just thought, okay, I'm just really sad, obviously, because I'm injured, I'm not playing, and I'm not in school. And then the turning point was when I was starting to return to campus. It was probably my first week back, and I'm walking on campus. It's like minus 40. It gets really cold here in Edmonton. And I had a thought, and that thought was, I don't want to live anymore.
Mm.
And that was my wake up call because I had never had thoughts like that. That was the point where I could no longer just say, oh, this is normal, this is okay, because there's nothing okay about that kind of thought. And
Mm.
so I never told my parents about anything that I was going through. I never told my partner at the time. I never told my coaches, teammates, told nobody. And when I got to that place, I knew I had to tell someone, otherwise this was going to end badly. And so I ended up telling someone that was a staff on the athletics board. And I'm very puzzled why I told this certain individual because they were quite high up in the athletic departments. And if they really wanted to ruin my life, they probably could have. But I think at the time it was a person that was far enough from my inner circle that I felt like I could dump it somewhere far enough that it wouldn't affect my immediate life. And
Mm.
luckily, he was very supportive and he directed me to my first therapist. And after that first session of therapy, I mean, even going into that first session of therapy, I didn't know what therapy was. I didn't know that there was people literally in my undergrad that were studying to create safe spaces to talk about things that I was going through. And when I got there, like I didn't have language like anxiety, depression, suicide, mental health, or self-care, self-talk, didn't know any of those words. And I think my first couple of sessions of therapy were just learning how to like talk, learning a new language,
Mm-hmm.
trying to open up what I was going through. And that in itself made a huge turning point in my life. And, after I want to say probably a good 2 months of therapy, I got to a place where I was, stable again, where I could think clearly, wasn't having those thoughts of suicide. And after that, every time I was feeling down, I now had a language. And that was like really my saving point. That being said, it was far, 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 far from being over. For the next
Mm.
5 years, I struggled with anxiety. It would start with anxiety, then it would be depression, and then it would be suicidal ideation. It was just like this vicious cycle. And it wasn't until 2021 where things really took a change, where my anxiety was no longer just, racing thoughts or feeling uneasy. I was literally fainting. So the first time
Wow.
I ever fainted was in the athletics trainer's clinic. And it was like just a crazy experience. So I was with my trainer, was hyperventilating. She was trying to count me down with my breathing, and I just could not get it down. Like I was freaking out. And I remember my head started to go really fuzzy and numb. And then before I know it, it was lights out. And I was like, wow, like after I woke up, I was like, what just happened? I had no idea what had happened because I'd never experienced something like that. And that was the first of many, many, many dozens of fainting episodes because of anxiety. So I've fainted in my car, I fainted in class, I
Oh
fainted
my
in
gosh.
practice. I literally have film of me fainting because I've fainted in practice, and like it's like the scariest thing ever. So
Jeez.
I just kind of went through it. I would say I went through that for about a year and a half. before I was starting to have fainting episodes like a month or 2 months apart. And I thought, okay, I'm slowly coming out of this. I just got to go with it. Then it reached a different point where in my last year of university playing football, I had a suicide attempt. I was at a point where I was like, no matter what I do, no matter how many therapists I see, no matter what medication I use, I'm always in this dark, deep pit and I can't get out of it. Like I was a full-fledged mental health advocate at this time. I was talking to
Wow.
students, to athletes about mental health. And it was like, when I look back at it, I think that I was so passionate about it because I was able to help other people, and that gave me
Mm.
this sense of like choice and control. And it took away the true choice and control that I was really wanting, which was to save myself
Mm.
from the
Yeah.
thoughts, save
Wow.
myself from the feelings, and I couldn't do it. And that suicide attempt was that wake up call where it's like, you can keep faking it, you can keep trying to make it feel like it's going to be okay, and it's not until you do something. And so the thing I had to do was completely leave sport. And I would say that the way I did it was very unconventional. It was in the middle of the season. So this was not like a post-season decision where it's like, okay, I can't go back for another season. It was, I had my attempt in about the third last week of the season and had a talk with my coach, said, hey, like this is like I gotta take a week off to think about what's the next step. And he was fine with it. I went for a week, felt good, came back, and second practice in, I was like a complete mess again. So I watched their whole entire playoff season from my couch, and I was just in shambles, like absolute shambles.
Mm.
And one point that I don't even always share, but I feel like sharing it today, is that when I was sitting on that couch and watching my team play, it was the hardest thing ever. I don't know if you've ever watched your favorite team play in the finals or whatever, and you're like on the edge of your seat because you know what's going to happen if they win. But for me, it was like, if they win, they did it without me. Like
Mm.
I wasn't part of that. And as
Mm.
much as I know there would be people that would say, hey, no, like you're still part of the team. Like even if we won, you would still be part of the team. It just really pushed me all the way down watching them play all the playoffs. Unfortunately, they didn't make the championship game, and part of that was like kind of a bittersweet. But long story short, after the season concluded, I had to make a change in my life. Like, what's
Mhm.
next? I'm not an athlete anymore. What am I going to do? And so I found relief in not just being a keynote speaker because I was speaking before then, but I had this revelation, and the revelation was I am worth more than the moment. And to
Mm.
kind of explain
Mm.
that a little bit more, I'm worth more than what I am in the classroom. I am worth more than what I am on the field. Like, okay, so who else am I? Well, I'm a son to my mom, I'm a partner to my spouse, I'm a niece or a nephew to my aunts and uncles, right? I'm a speaker, right? I used to be a musician. I can still be a musician. All these things that don't have to be quantified by stats or grades, right? And so that was like relieving. And when I had that epiphany, I'm like, wow, how many other people, even outside of sport, are trapped by this identity that they've built that they believe is fixed and it's the only way. And when I look back on the whole story that I've shared with you right now, I feel like that was the root of my anxiety. I was so anxious about school because I felt like if I failed, that was it. I was going to be a bum on the street and I would be homeless. Like I remember telling those words to my parents, like, if I fail this exam, I am going to be homeless. And it's the most ridiculous thing, but that's how I felt. When I was playing, if I didn't make that tackle or if I messed up on the field, I was like, I'm going to get cut. I'm going to get cut. I'm going to watch the next game from the bench. And that was what was causing all this anxiety this whole entire time. And so that thought, that idea was relieving. And now it's the foundation of my entire career today as a keynote speaker and mental health advocate. So I think that's a nice place to round it off there. But yeah, that's my story.
Oh my goodness.
Oh.
I'm sorry, I got a little emotional just listening to you because you hit on things that I'm like, oh my God, I felt that. Oh my gosh, the way that you communicate things, I'm sure tons of listeners can say, like, I also was like an extremist where it's like if I didn't do something perfectly, I went to the place of failure. And Laura and I share this all over our first season. It's like we were high level gymnasts, and the ability to like make it to the Olympics is like one in a million, right? There's only like a certain amount of slots, and to get to the highest level and then, not make it into the top six to make it to this, prize of the Olympics. And there's thousands, like thousands of girls that compete for this. And to think like that we were failures who could, like the extreme mental thoughts that come into your brain. And I think for me, it was the same thing. Like you touched on such beautiful notes that I'm sure is a connection to a lot of athletes. But I think the thing that I thought was so profound about your story that was also unusual is that you took the steps in the right direction and still didn't get quote unquote saved, right? And I think that's an interesting part because I think with our listeners, we have athletes that are listening, we have parents that are listening, we have coaches that are listening, and we want to fix it like plan.
Mm.
Go to a therapist, go talk to somebody, take time off, do all these things. But you beautifully said like it wasn't working. It was me. I was a mental health advocate at this time, and still something was not right. And your body reacted to it. We always talk about how the body cannot lie with what the emotion is feeling. And you're experiencing these physical changes where you're like fainting while you're in your car and you're fainting, you're on the field and you're fainting, and everybody's like, what's going on? I'm sure, because you're probably doing the right steps. And so this is like an interesting question for parents who are listening, guardians, even people who are therapists, like if they're doing the right thing and still, what are signs? Like I'm thinking as like a coach, if I see an athlete and I'm like giving them all these resources to get better, but still, like, what are the signs for me as somebody who's working with athletes to look at when you think you're supporting them in the right way and things are still not working? What should we look for in those things?
That's a good question. I think the answer is very broad because it's different for everyone. But I
Sure.
think some good starting places would be even things that are not even related to athletes. Like, are you eating well? Are you sleeping well? Are you avoiding social gatherings and not hanging out with your friends as you usually do? Like the simple things. I think that's a big sign and tell because the truth is no athlete, especially athletes, no athlete's going to come and say, "Hey, I'm having a lot of trouble today and I feel really weak in the mind." Like no one's going to.
Yeah.
So I think just even the basic ins and outs of life are good signs. But for athletes, I think also like body language on the field or on the court is super huge. If you're an athlete that really beats himself up after they make a mistake, that's going to show up in your body language. Is your head down after that bad shot in a game? Are you like throwing the ball down when you miss that catch? Are you
Mm,
getting really agitated with teammates? That's actually a big one that I see in the NFL all the time
yeah.
with guys that will come out later and say, "Hey, actually, I was really struggling," and I'm like, "Yeah, I could tell because every time you come off the field, you're yelling at your coach, you're yelling at your teammates, and you're coming to meetings late." It's like, yeah, something is obviously up. So I think
Mm,
body language is a huge one that people probably don't think about it. And you know what? It's not going to be the coaches or even the teammates that see it. You know who's going to see it? The athletic therapist. Those are the people that are going to see it. So if you're a coach or even if you're a clinician that doesn't see your athlete all the time, go talk to the AT and I promise they'll tell you everything you need to know.
Mhm.
mm,
Yeah. Yeah. To that point, from what I'm hearing for you, Joy, is that there's signs and how us as a community can come around an athlete and be part of that attunement. Excuse me.
mm-hmm.
You're talking about attunement, you're talking about relationship. The ATs have a unique relationship to see all the different sides of a person in a moment. And that reminds me another quote that you just said about the different parts to you, which I call it like a gem. Like we look at this athlete side of us, or we look at the student side of us. But as you're saying that there's so many sides to us, and it's
Mm.
important to nourish all those sides. And that holds us together in many ways. What was the process for you, if you don't mind sharing a little bit about that? Because I know a lot of people, they think of it as woo-woo. I've gotten pushback about mental health or about, they like words like wellness, they like mental performance, sports performance, but you say the word mental health and people kind of, it's like very next level. It feels very dark for them. It immediately associates to something that feels like weakness. It's woo-woo, all
Mhm.
kinds of stuff. So talking to someone who isn't there but is listening and is questioning, they know something's wrong. They can feel it. It feels off on the inside. You knew that in the first times that you walked into therapy, for instance. What was it like for you to go from not getting support, not telling anyone, it's held in, I don't want to say it's like a secret, but you're really holding it in, maybe a lack of awareness at that time, self-awareness, to this evolution of identity, being able to see all the beautiful sides to yourself? I know it's a loaded question, but can you walk us through a little bit about that process for you?
Yeah, for sure. I would say that, like most people, something drastically had to change my life in order for something to happen. And I think part of me just feels like that's an aspect of life. Like something has to basically change to shift your perspective. And my first thoughts of suicide were that shift. And I think, if it wasn't for that, I don't know where I would be today. I don't think I would necessarily know the words mental health or know anything around mental health literacy. And I think having that shift brought me to a therapist, and that therapist really opened up that world to me where I could actually comprehend my emotions. And I feel like that's the piece that people are missing, is they don't know how to comprehend their emotions. It's either I'm sad, I'm mad, I'm happy, or I'm, whatever emotion is vocabulary. Like it's usually like 3 or 4 different types of moods. And it's like it's so much more complex than that. And even apart from that, I think it is difficult for many people to dive into why they are feeling like that. And I feel like that's what I've learned from my therapist. And I think sometimes, maybe you're at the place where you really need that therapist to help you, but these are skills that you can learn on a daily basis. Like taking a step back and saying, okay, whoa, whoa, whoa. I feel super dysregulated right now. Why? Like just take a moment just to ask yourself what has happened throughout the day, what may be leading to this. And it's not about getting the right answer and then fixing it, but it's about, discovering, being curious, like, why am I feeling like this? And so I think that was really the change. Even though I was going through it like up and down every single season, I always had that. And once I had that, that is why I was able to go to my coaches and to my parents eventually at whatever point it was, like my third year in, and actually say, this is what's going on. Because I could say, hey, I'm struggling with anxiety. It wasn't, hey, I'm like really struggling right now, period. And it's like, no one's going to know how to help you, right? So if you're able to kind of piece together and put it into words, it doesn't just help you, but it helps other people to understand, like, hey, this is not Isaiah being a maniac and he's like really messed up and he needs some real professional help. It's like, no, he's struggling with performance pressure, or hey, he's struggling with his grades. I know how to deal with that. Let's get him a tutor. Hey, let's have some extra film time. Let's help you out, right? Now things can start to change once you have that ability to comprehend your emotions, that emotional intelligence, and really speak about how you're feeling.
Yeah. And when you finally had words, how was the community in response to you sharing this part of yourself? Because that's super scary to people too, to finally be able to, I have words to it and I'm going to share it. I'm going to tell my loved ones. What was it like for you to share that with your community? How was their response to you, and what was helpful or maybe not helpful?
Yeah, no, I always like when people ask that, because they think like, oh, everyone was super helpful. And it's like, I want to say that I was very blessed to say everybody was helpful along the way. My coaches never questioned my ability on game day. They never pulled me off because I said, hey, I'm struggling with my mental health. Even my parents didn't really know what to say, but they were still supportive of it and were like, hey, like, I don't know how to help you right now, but I believe you and I'm here for you. So I want to say that I was very fortunate to have a really supportive circle, but I know that most of the time in sport, that is not the case. And it drives me absolutely insane, because the same coaches that will put down an athlete because they're struggling mentally are the same coaches that will tell you, okay, tonight before game day, I want you to close your eyes and I want you to visualize what you're going to see.
Oh,
I want you to take some time and write these things on a piece of paper. What do you want out of your career? And I want you to put it in your locker room. Those same coaches will put down athletes for having struggled with their mental health, but yet they're still addressing the same thing. They're still talking about the same thing, mental health, that visualization, writing whatever it is in your locker room to get you mentally prepared. It's all mental health. This is
yeah.
not like high performance guru tough guy stuff. This is mental health. So instead of treating mental health, like you said, like a taboo, like woo-woo kind of conversation, let's just assess the whole athlete the same way we do when we send them off to an athletics trainer. They get taped up, they get physiotherapy training, whatever it is. Like mental health is a piece of athletics. And if you ignore it, it's not going to work. And the other piece that I'll add on that I really hope any coaches or trainers that are listening to this right now is that rather than when you hear your athlete is struggling with their mental health and saying, okay, we got to pull you off and put you on the bench. No, that's an opportunity for that athlete to grow. Keep them in
Mm.
that position as long as it's safe. You know, if it's not safe, don't do it. But if it's safe and you have faith that they can grow from that, push them. That's what sport is all about. If you keep pulling them out of that situation, then the next time you put them in the heat of the moment, they're going to miss that free throw. They're going to miss that shot. They're going to miss that catch in the end zone. And it's not just going to affect them now. Now the whole team suffers. And then you know who really gets the brunt out of it? It's not the coaches. It's not anyone else. It's the athlete. And then
Right.
the
Yeah.
athlete has its career die. And that's the label that gets put on them. So yeah, that's I've had a good supportive system, but I know that's not the case for everyone, and that needs to change.
Yeah. I mean, you're kind of blowing my mind, Isaiah, in a lot of ways, because like I work with athletes and that is literally what coaches do. Like they're not mentally capable. They're not mentally tough. That's a language that goes on all the time, right? And I'm specifically working with gymnasts, okay? So it's one of those things like fearlessness is a huge component for a gymnast to succeed.
Mm.
Right? Like you're doing these extraordinary things in the air that are almost humanly impossible. But when a kid has fear and they have mental blocks, it is literally the title goes, they can't hack it. They're not a gymnast. They're going to only go to a certain point, and we start seeing like a decrease with girls getting to a certain level because they're fearful, right? And a big part of the component is like, this is not her thing, or let's have her go and try something else, as opposed to like pushing them to kind of conquer these things and grow resilient and all those things. So it's just really interesting because I'm sitting here as a coach, even like critiquing my own viewpoints, which is really interesting because I think when it's like I'm high anxiety or I don't think I can do this, I probably as a coach would be like, okay, well, take a step back. If this is too scary, like give yourself a break, as opposed to being like the coach. Because I think with coaches right now, there's a reckoning with sports, right? And particularly with my sport, there was this critique on tough coaching, fear-based coaching. When do I push my athlete? When is it appropriate to push my athlete? And so you're really flipping the switch, even for me, because I think I'm prone to be the coach that will almost protect them from experiencing anything that's challenging or difficult, because I'm afraid that I would be labeled the harsh coach that cannot see the individual, doesn't see the whole person, and is trying to create something for a results-based sort of mentality.
Mm.
So that line feels very fine. So you're actually really making me think. And I'm hoping that other people who are listening are also thinking about this too, you know. But any, I guess, words of advice for somebody like me who's like, when do I know that it's safe for me to push my athlete?
That's a good question. The thing that actually came to mind is there was a time, I think I was in grade 12 provincial team for the province, and I had a coach. I had known him for a couple of years, and he's a coach that really transformed my game as a defensive lineman in the game of football. And I remember we were about to play Quebec, and I was not ready. We were warming up. My coach could tell, like, you are not locked in for this game. And at the time, Quebec was like the team to beat. They had won consecutively for years. And so this was like a huge game. And I remember he pulled me off in the first quarter. He's like, you're not going in until your head is right. And in that moment, I was like, man, like, how could he do that? Like, why would he do that to me? And I was kind of emotional about it and kind of took it personal. But for me as an athlete, that taught me so much. And I think that whole situation could have been so much different if he didn't have, and this is the key here, this is your answer,
Mm-hmm.
relationship with your athletes. You have to have relationship with your athletes. And I understand that is hard because you don't want to be like buddy with your players, and then it creates a power dynamic and it's all messy. But I think when you're talking about like the guys that you put on the starting line, you need to know them. Like you need to know something about their life. They're not just players. They are
Mm-hmm.
human that are playing for you. And if you buy into that relationship, they will do anything for you. I've seen guys do some pretty crazy stuff. I had a guy a couple years ago I was playing with. He played with a whole season with a herniated disc in
Ugh.
his back. Whole season with a herniated disc. No one asked him for that. The reason why a player does that is because there's a relationship with the players and the coaches because you will do whatever it takes. And personally, I feel like that's the key. Like if you know when you want to know when to push your athlete and when to pull them off, you have to have relationship with them in order to know that.
Yeah. I have a
Yeah.
question about that then. I mean, first of all, that's incredible. Two questions actually. One, after your coach pulled you off, it's emotional, it's tough. How did your coach talk to you about it? How did you work it out after? Like, what's the follow-up for that? If a
Mm.
coach makes that decision, what can be the follow-up to that so that it sort of repairs a moment or explains a moment?
Yeah, no, no. I realized I didn't finish that story. So like I eventually did get put back in the game and I did great, right? So him pulling me off is exactly what I needed. I need to focus up. I was really nervous. I got my nerves down and I played well. Now I talk to him all the time. We every time that we see each other, it's like nothing ever happened, right? So I think that is really like a great example of how relationship is the foundation. And if you have a good relationship with your coaches, they may be mad at you in the moment, but you're able to dissociate their anger away from your relationship you have with them and realize, okay, this is, people say sport is a business and it is, it 100% is, but you're able to take that criticism and just leave it at business. It's not personal. It's
Mm.
nothing. One of the sayings that my coaches always used to say, when you walk into the film room, leave your emotions at the door because they're about to tell you some really hard stuff. But that's the only way that you get better, right? But before if you're a coach, before you want to yell at your player, you have to build a relationship. You can't just start yelling at players and getting mad because personally, as me as a player, I'm going to walk out the door. I don't want to play for a coach like that. I want to play for a coach that loves me for who I am as a human being first, and then tear me apart as an athlete because I want to get better. That I can deal with it.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. So much wisdom going on right now. I'm loving
I
it.
know. I'm
Um,
writing notes. Like I'm gonna go to the gym today, Isaiah, and like start my thing with love you as human beings, but leave your emotion at the door when you walk into this gym.
that's totally
Because
true.
we're trying to get you better.
Can we switch gears just a little bit because with the time that we have, because I know everyone's wrought right now with being pulled in many directions, but I have to ask, and we have to give space about what you're doing now, Isaiah, which I think is so cool, and you have such an amazing story in and of itself. Tell us about Blue Shoes.
Yeah, for sure. So Blue Shoes is the new name for what was formerly called Behind the Mask. Behind the Mask was my keynote story on my 5 years with anxiety, depression, and suicide. I launched that in August of 2024. Had a few schools that called me in to share my story and speak about mental health and how to build resiliency. And, for a long time, I had this story that I hadn't shared on stage just sitting in my closet. And the reason why I say my closet is because the story was a pair of blue shoes. And the way the story goes is about 3 years ago, when I was struggling with suicidal ideation, I'm leaving the locker room and Coach Franz crossed paths with me and we start up a conversation. And we start talking, we're talking, we're talking. And then full stop, he asked me this really weird question. And the question was, what shoe size are you? And I was like, size 13. And he said, I think I got something for you. And so a few days later, I run across Crows Franz again, and he gave me the shoe box, and I open up the shoe box, and it's a pair of blue shoes. Normally I have them on me, but today I don't. And in that moment, if I'm completely honest, it really wasn't about the shoes because it was a pair of old school Vans. I don't even really like Vans that much. But for me in that moment, it was like, wow, like my coach cares about me. And for me at that time was like, man, I don't even care about myself right now. I don't even care if I wake up tomorrow. But the fact that someone else, you know, cared about me, especially a coach, was like, wow, for someone that's struggling that may not always be able to see the light of tomorrow or even the next hour, all it takes to supports someone that's struggling with their mental health is a moment. And that is what I've coined the blue shoe theory is you may not have all the resources, you may not have all the letters behind your name, you may not be a psychologist, but all you need to support someone struggling with their mental health is a moment. And that is what Blue Shoes is a symbol of. So my brand name now is Blue Shoes. You can find me at blueshoes.ca. And I'm speaking to youth aged 12 to 24, 25 about mental health and resilience. And I'm sharing my story and all the things that I've learned as an athlete as it pertains to youth. Yeah.
Amazing.
Amazing. In that age group, for our people who are listening who want to hear your story, how in depth do you get with kids? Like, what can kids take and what can kids know as a parent? Like, what can I do to facilitate these kinds of conversations with my kids? What can Joy do with her kids? How can we support the normalization of mental health for one, especially for athletes and especially for athletes of color? I have to point that out as well. You are a man talking about mental health, and you are a man of color talking about mental health. You are a football player talking about mental health. Like, you are a unicorn in this world right now. I mean, it's precious, precious work that you are doing. So thank you so much. It's so inspiring to so many people. But anyway, for us as the adults that are supporting the next generation of athletes, what can we do to support young people in talking about mental health and normalizing it?
Yeah, for sure. So, when I share my story, I always practice safe storytelling. The thing that I've learned is it's not about sharing a really horrible story and then showing this heroic way out, because there's people in this world that could totally outdo my stories with much horrific and more traumatic details. But the point is, what has it done for you? How's it transformed you? And what have you learned from it? So I don't share details. I share what's necessary and what I've learned. And back to your main question of like, what can you as parents and coaches when it comes to like nurturing youth is encourage a growth mindset. Like, please encourage a growth mindset. It's not about being LeBron James today. It's not about being Tom Brady today. It's about being you. Who are you and how can you improve today? One thing that I always used to stress about as an athlete was practice. And it's like the most ridiculous thing ever. Why would you stress about practice? That's your place to get better. That's the whole point. You're supposed to mess up. Because personally, when I look back at myself, I wish I messed up more in practice, because when you see athletes that don't mess up in practice, it shows you that they're holding back because they don't want to look bad on film, right? But if you have athletes that are going out there and like making hard plays and trying to do new things, encourage that, right? Encourage them to get better 1% every single day. So that would kind of be, my advice. And even watching football, I used to like never watch football because I was playing it and I just wanted a break from it. But recently I've been to a few games, high school games and even junior league games, and parents are just like so crazy sometimes about their kids playing sport. Like, it's just so crazy. Like, I get it's your kid and you love them to death, but it's like, remember that there's like a million other athletes in this world. And I hate to say it, but like, your kid is not the only one, right? So don't put that pressure on your kid that he has to be the best. He doesn't have to be LeBron James. He doesn't need to be Tom Brady. Encourage him or her to be their best. Like, that's the most important thing, because at the end of the day, not to crush any dreams, but the chances of them making it pro is very slim, right? However, what about after? You're gonna tell me that all that prep work and all that money that you put into all these camps after they're done sport is just over? No, because the person that I am today is because I played sport. So if you encourage your kid to take those bits from sport as they grow, by the time they're out of sport, they're gonna be superstars regardless. Like, their job, they're going to go into whatever they're going into, and they're going to be phenomenal leaders. They're going to have work ethic that nobody else can have, right? Like, I always say that people that read books on work ethic and leadership and resilience, they had to go to school or they had to buy a book. Me, I just played 14 years of football and I got it all, right?
That's right.
I got it all applied to me, right? Like, in a completely different way. So yeah, it's not just about the sport. It's about what you take from that, but that all depends on how you speak to your child or your athletes when they're at a young age to encourage that growth mindset.
My gosh.
Mic drop.
I'm literally going to be doing these. I have parent meetings weekly, Isaiah.
You know what, Joy? You
I
should just
am-
make Isaiah's episode,
I know.
it required listening.
Like, just
say,
pass it to them.
Yes.
Because you're so right. I mean, the amount of times that I talk to parents about their investment financially on their kids and wanting them to get to the next level, like why aren't they doing better at competition, all these things. And it's like the investment is them as a totality of a person, and that the tools they are learning when they're in the gym is not just about the results of what they're going to do on the competition floor or on the field or on the court. You are so right. Like, both me and Laura, we did not achieve our goal, our dream, but we are in the positions that we are in because of what we learned in our sport. It just feels so complete on what you're saying. So you're just so much knowledge. This is phenomenal. And I'm excited for our listeners to hear this because it's just so useful.
I mean,
You're
it's
incredible.
a reminder that sports, it's not transactional.
Yeah.
This is not transactional. This is a relationship with people. It's a relationship with oneself. It's important for the growth to sometimes hurt. It's going to be painful because that's what it takes to break out of shells. It takes challenges. It takes grappling. I love that word, just like grappling with something and mastering little by little. You're saying this isn't, you put in $1,000 and that equates kid being able to X, Y, and Z. This is, you put in $1,000, a kid's going to grow and have all these opportunities to grow in so many different ways that later on becomes a brave person standing in front of a group of people and supporting other kids in their mental health and their growth and normalizing mental health. So pretty amazing stuff.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah. Phenomenal.
Well, Isaiah, we are at the end and my soul is filled with wisdom and knowledge. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us, your precious story. And as we do at the end of every episode, we do what's called a lightning discuss question. Would you like to play?
Absolutely. Let's go.
Okay. I'm going to say a statement and end with the word discuss. We just discuss it. Everybody will answer. There's no really debate. If you'd like more questions, you're welcome to. But it's just an opportunity for people to get to know us a little bit more. So the discuss question is, what is your love language? Discuss.
My love language is definitely acts of service, and if my wife is hearing this, yes, she'll also second that. I am such a clean freak. I will do like dishes at like 10 o'clock at night or like 4 o'clock in the morning. I'll be sweeping, I'll be vacuuming. I don't care who I'm waking up or anything. So when other people do that for me, because I know how hard that is to do, I love that because now I get to do nothing. I don't have to wake up at 4 in the morning or do it at 10 o'clock at night. So it's cool.
You can come over anytime if you want to do dishes here or vacuum my place, Isaiah.
That's right. I don't know any sort of, the stereotypical mom who's not just thinks that you're the hottest human being right now as we speak. For sure. Your wife is so lucky. You cannot wait to meet her and give her like a gold medal. She won.
Yeah, that's incredible.
How about you, Joya?
I think, it's so funny because I used to think it was acts of service too for me, but my husband brought something different out of me. So it's really interesting when you like find your person and the things that you're like, what I need in a relationship. And he would say, yours is definitely quality time. We don't have much time in our schedule to really connect because we're on different work schedules. I work a little bit later. He's gone in the morning. But what I try to do every morning, because it helps me start my day right, is have coffee with him. Even if it's like a 10-minute coffee connection, checking in with each other, how we're feeling, what we want out of our day. And we always end the night before we go to bed, we talk about our highs and our lows that day. And so quality time, I think, has been something that has naturally been this need for me. So I would say for me, it's quality time.
That's a nice one. I like that you have coffee in the morning together. It's so sweet.
We don't always, but we try. We try our best. Yeah.
It's very sweet. So sweet. And I think for me, it is, I don't even know all the love languages, but what comes to mind is consideration, because I think I have a tendency to, especially with my ADHD, I will just work until I drop dead. And I think it means a lot to me when someone's like, are you hungry? Are you almost done? Just kind of a check-in really means a lot. Or sometimes I get really tired and I need to crash for a while. My husband and my kids know this, but they'll kind of come in and be like, they put the shades down, they close the door, and they're just very quiet. And they're like, don't bother her. Give personal space. And that just means the world to me.
Yeah, that's a good
I think
Anyway.
I like the quality time because I think my wife also enjoys quality time, but our love languages are two-edged swords to each other because if I'm doing all the working and the cleaning, then she doesn't get the quality time. So then she also helps me clean. So that makes me feel good. And then she gets the quality time. So it actually works out very well. It's a nice little combo.
Aw.
And you have a
I mean, she gets a
pristine
gold medal
home.
too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
That's
Oh, no,
very
that's so
sweet.
cute. That's very, very sweet. Well, thank you so much, Isaiah. We adore you so much, and we're so grateful for you being in this world. Thank you so much again for sharing your story. We appreciate you so.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me again.
Hopefully we'll see you soon.
Absolutely.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in. If you have any questions, please reach out to us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok.
Share and follow us on Amazon, Spotify, and Apple. Help us out and leave a 5-star review. Thanks.